fires and what the Ventura County Fire Chief told me just moments ago. Also tonight, stepping down, Senator Al Franken resigning amid allegations of sexual misconduct, but not going without some blistering words, what he calls ironic. President Trump and Senate candidate Roy Moore facing their own serious accusations, but with support from the Republican Party. The deadly school shooting tonight, the high school students killed, classmates hiding in the corners of the classroom. What police tonight have just revealed. The verdict is in. The former police officer charged with shooting an unarmed black man in the back as he ran away following a traffic stop. The judge's decision tonight. And the day of rage, our correspondent witnessing the violent protests less than 24 hours after President Trump's announcement on Jerusalem.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from the fire line in Ventura County, California.
And good evening tonight from Ventura, California. We are here where the Thomas Fire is raging out of control tonight. One of 6 fires now, major fires burning here in Southern California, all fueled by those Santa Ana winds. Gusts reaching more than 80 miles per hour, destroying homes. And just take a look behind me tonight. This is what you see as you travel through these neighborhoods here. Nothing but chimneys still standing for home after home. And you can see the cars that this family simply won't be able to return to. The van here burned out, the sedan, so many vehicles as far as the eye can see here in some of these neighborhoods. Almost 200,000 people have now been forced to evacuate from these fires. The largest of the blazes now claiming new neighborhoods tonight, forcing more families to flee. The 101 Coastal Highway, in fact, shut down for a time, flames right beside it. More than 5,000 firefighters battling the flames, and just look at this image tonight. It says it all. That is the smoke from the fires as seen from the space station. In a moment, we are going to fly you right over the fires here in Southern California, but we begin with ABC's Matt Gutman.
Tonight, Southern California is exploding like a tinderbox. New fires breaking out from San Diego County, where some schools have been evacuated, to Malibu. Armies of firefighters pouncing on flare-ups on the ground and from the air. The Thomas Fire raging across Ventura County, now scorching more than 150 square miles. Barreling into the town of La Conchita early this morning. Firefighters battling a blizzard of embers and ash. The fire jumping the 101 freeway, one of so many arteries blocked by the flames. You can see inside this ridge, this fire is just engulfing both sides of the canyon here. We watch this fire line leap down this mountain. These helicopters are dropping as much water as they possibly can on these fields. The idea is to stop the fire from getting from this charred part of the mountain down there to those avocado fields and the homes below. And just yards away, we found Anthony and Lene Bavero sprinting back to their home. It was a scramble repeated thousands of times in California this week. Lene ripping pictures off the walls of her children's rooms, grabbing items by the drawerful, and willing to accept any help in the dash to flee. Why the wedding dress of all the things?
Just our memories. Yeah. And we've been together, since I was 19, and we've been through so much.
Parts of Southern California now facing some of the most critical fire conditions on record. Our Marcus Moore embedded with firefighters in Faria Beach.
We have firefighters that lost their homes. So it is personal.
Back in Los Angeles, the Screwball fire that turned the 405 freeway into a hellscape, that's now 20% contained.
And Matt Gutman is with us tonight. And Matt, you mentioned there those extremely critical fire conditions being monitored very closely tonight.
That's right, David. What you see right behind me is a backfire lit by firefighters. What they're trying to do is create a buffer between the scorched earth and the unburned fields down there. Now, what's incredible about this fire is that I'm 25 miles away from where you are, but this is the very same fire. David?
Matt Gutman leading us off tonight here in Southern California. Matt, our thanks to you. And I wanted to give everyone at home an idea of what these fires look like from the air tonight. We're joined right now by JT Elpaw, the helicopter pilot at our station in Los Angeles, KABC. And JT, I know these flames are burning as we speak. These fires are still out of control.
A very massive fire, this fire, the Thomas Fire. Let's take you outside right now and show you those flames. This is in a canyon on the northeast flank of this fire. We're going to pull out to try to give you a little bit of perspective of just how large this 96,000 acre fire is. That's 150 square miles. That's only 5% contained. That is a look from us on the northeast flank, looking back to your area, which is about 25 miles away. We're going to fade in our satellite technology from SkyMap 7 to give you an idea of what this area looks like that's burning. We're going to go right through Ojai, and you can see the Pacific Ocean in the background. That gives you an idea how vast and how far this fire is burning. It is burning with the Santa Ana winds behind it, 25, 35, 45 miles an hour and greater out of the northeast to the southwest, pushing this flames to the beach communities down where you're at, David.
And we know those mile-per-hour readings that you talk about are wind gusts, not sustained winds, but that is all you need is a wind gust to carry an ember anywhere from a mile or two and then launch another fire. And JT, the real concern from authorities I talked to here on the ground, the fire chief just a short time ago, is the fact that these winds are not about to let up.
They are not. They have blowing very, very hard for the past 3 or 4 days, and they don't see any end in sight. These winds are extremely strong, and as you mentioned, David, taking these embers and spotting fires 5-10 miles downrange, that is the big concern with firefighters right now over the Thomas Fire. The spotting ahead and threatening homes in the area where you're at.
All right, JT Alpar, thanks to you and the entire team at KABC tonight. As I mentioned there, I spoke a short time ago with the fire chief right here in Ventura County, Mark Lorenzen. I asked him what he's most worried about going into the evening hours tonight and how long these fires could actually last. And his answer was alarming. What's your concern going into tonight?
Really, it's the winds right now. Right, Mother Nature really decides when we're going to be able to actually put the fire out. So right now, what we're doing is just trying to stay ahead of it, make sure we evacuate and protect structures.
What are they telling you to expect in the coming hours as far as the winds are concerned?
We've got gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour coming hard out of the east, so that pushes the fire really hard in the westerly direction.
We're talking about homes, apartment buildings?
Homes, barns, apartment buildings, and we expect that number is going to go up significantly.
There was a hospital involved too?
There was. A hospital, large apartments, homes, people's livings, yes, destroyed.
Tonight, at least 150 structures here in Ventura County are destroyed. But the fire chief telling me that number will go far higher because assessment teams are out at this hour surveying the damage. This is Via Andolando here in Ventura, and you can actually see that so many of the homes are completely wiped out by the fires. You can hear the winds behind us, and along the front of these homes, so often you see what was the family car completely melted. Aluminum here in the street. In the back, look at this window. The glass completely melted over what was the back seat of this car. And everywhere you look in these neighborhoods we've traveled through, this is what you see. The front walkways leading right up to the front door that was once there. And as we walk beyond the front gate at this home, we see the same thing over and over again. You can see here, stairs everywhere, stairs to nowhere now. How many more days do you foresee this being an active, multiple fire situation?
Oh, shoot. In the absence of rain, I can see it easily going to Christmas.
Really?
Yes. Thank you so much.
And as we were there with the fire chief, an unexpected delivery. The Thompson girls, Haley and Hannah, their home is okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Show me what you brought for the firefighters here.
So we brought ham and cheese, turkey and cheese.
Ham and cheese, turkey and cheese?
And we had peanut butter and jelly, but there was no one.
So peanut butter and jelly was really popular. These guys appreciate it.
Absolutely.
The Thompson sisters, a little ray of light for all those firefighters who are working so hard here. But you did hear that fire chief there talking about the Santa Ana winds and telling me there is a possibility these fires could be burning straight up through the holiday. They're looking at several days of winds and no rain for several days out. So let's bring in meteorologist Rob Marciano. He's been here in the fire zone now for days. And Rob, what's the forecast looking like tonight?
Well, David, no rain for sure, so they have to get the water from somewhere. The helicopter's behind me dipping into that pond and working the hills here in the Creek Fire, and they'll be doing it right through the weekend because red flag warnings now have been extended into Sunday with the most extreme fire conditions. The next 12 hours, we've got relative humidity levels that I've never seen. This is alarming. Single digits across the board. That is tinderbox. And of course, the winds gusting 40 to 60 miles an hour over the next 24 to 36 hours, abating somewhat on Saturday, but dangerous conditions right through Sunday. David.
All right, Rob Marciano with us again tonight. Rob, thank you. In the meantime, we do move on to the other major headlines of this evening. Senator Al Franken announcing he will resign after multiple allegations of sexual misconduct and calls from his Democratic colleagues, beginning with several prominent women in the Senate over the last 24 hours, calling on him to resign. But in his own words today, Franken pointed to what he called the irony, the allegations against the current president and against Roy Moore running for Senate, both with strong support from the Republican Party. Here tonight, ABC's Mary Bruce.
Al Franken walking to the Senate floor today to announce he's leaving for good.
In the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate.
8 women have accused the Minnesota Democrat of sexual misconduct. Franken has apologized for some of his behavior, but today he made one thing clear.
Some of the allegations against me are simply not true.
Still, he's bowing to the demands of dozens of his Democratic colleagues who pushed him to resign. But not without this parting shot, taking aim at President Trump and Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore.
I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
More than a dozen women have accused President Trump of sexual misconduct. He insists they're all liars. The White House press secretary today defended her boss.
I've never felt anything but treated with the highest level of respect and been empowered to do my job. So I think that's a pretty good start and a pretty good example on that front.
Republicans are now in a tough spot. The Alabama election is on Tuesday. Moore has denied accusations of inappropriate behavior from 8 women, including 2 who say he assaulted them as teenagers.
I'm going to let the people of Alabama make the call.
Mitch McConnell says if elected, Moore would immediately face an ethics investigation.
Are you concerned here that it looks like the parties are operating by different standards when it comes to sexual harassment?
No, Franken didn't have to resign. There was clearly no due process. But when you have everybody coming after you, that's what he chose to do. But that's really up to Franken and up to Moore, not up to the parties.
And Mary Bruce with us live tonight up on the Hill. And Mary, I know there's also news breaking right now at this hour about yet another member of Congress. What can you tell us?
David, this time it is a Republican. We have just learned moments ago that Arizona Congressman Trent Franks is resigning. He's known as a conservative firebrand, especially on social issues. He now becomes the 3rd member of Congress to resign just this week. David.
Mary Bruce on the Hill for us again tonight. Mary, thank you. And next here this evening, the deadly high school shooting in New Mexico. A gunman opening fire, killing 2 students. The chilling scene as the students are led away from the school, their hands on their heads, their parents rushing to the scene today. And here's ABC's Clayton Sandell with what we've just learned on that front.
At this New Mexico high school today, a lesson in extreme tragic violence.
It's just I never had thought that something like this would ever happen to me. It's just really scary and it's kind of hard to believe.
In the small town of Aztec this morning around 8 a.m., a gunman enters the school and begins shooting.
Well, we need to go classroom by classroom and remove the kids, move them to the gym.
2 students, a male and a female, were killed. Officers, some with their own kids at the school, arrived within a minute of the first call.
We could hear casings hitting the floor.
The gunman is now dead. Police will not say if he was a student or how he died. And David, law enforcement sources tell ABC News that the responding officers actually had to shoot through a locked door in order to get into the school. Upstairs, they found the alleged gunman dead, a handgun and multiple magazines next to the suspect. David.
Clayton Sandell with us tonight. Clayton, thank you. Next here to the Russia investigation and questions tonight about Donald Trump Jr.'s answers on Capitol Hill, about that Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer during the campaign. The president's son refusing to answer questions about what he told his father about that meeting, claiming attorney-client privilege. Here's ABC's chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
Tonight, the White House is facing questions about why Donald Trump Jr. is refusing to tell Congress what he told his father after news broke about his controversial meeting in Trump Tower with a Russian lawyer. Trump Jr. spent about 8 hours before the House Intelligence Committee answering questions about his June 2016 meeting. He had been told the Russian lawyer had dirt on Hillary Clinton as, quote, part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump. Trump Jr. acknowledged discussing the matter with the president when the news broke over the summer, but he refused to describe that discussion, citing attorney-client privilege because he said lawyers for him and his father were also on the phone. The top Democrat on the committee says that's bogus.
In my view, there is no attorney-client privilege that protects a discussion between father and son.
We put that to the White House press secretary.
We believe that his lawyers had a legitimate reason and basis for not answering those questions, but that's something I would direct you to his attorneys to address more fully.
Can you explain to me how it could be attorney-client privilege when neither Donald Trump Jr. nor President Trump are attorneys?
Again, that's something that you would have to talk with Don Jr.'s attorneys about. That's not something I'm going to be able to comment from here.
Trump Jr. hasn't said anything on the subject since his marathon testimony yesterday. But he did share a picture of the helicopter he presumably took back to New York, writing, "Time to roll." The top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee is threatening to subpoena Donald Trump Jr., saying this is a central communications about a pivotal meeting. He says that Donald Trump Jr. has to answer questions about what he and his father discussed. David?
John Carl live at the White House for us. John, thanks as always. And a reprieve from a possible government shutdown tomorrow night. President Trump meeting with Republican and Democratic leaders of Congress at the White House today to discuss a new budget. Both sides calling it, quote, productive. Meantime, the House and the Senate both voting to move the shutdown deadline now to December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. Obviously, that puts off the tough negotiating now for another 2 weeks. And just 24 hours after the president made that announcement about Jerusalem, officially recognizing it as the capital of Israel and saying we will move the embassy there, there have already been flare-ups and protests, and ABC's James Longman witnessing it firsthand tonight.
Tonight, the violence President Trump was warned about, protesters burning images of him after his announcement recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Anger boiling over in the streets. Hezbollah's leader tonight blasting Trump, saying he fired the last bullet at the peace process. Palestinians throwing rocks at Israeli forces. The Israelis firing back.
We've been watching this back and forth between young men and the security forces all day. They've been shooting.
Our team caught in the tear gas used to disperse the crowds.
These sorts of scenes you often see in this part of the world. The fear this time is that if people really start to believe that the peace process is dead, then these grow.
Over 100 injured in Palestinian territories, protesters doused with water cannons. Tonight, the leader of Hamas denouncing President Trump, even calling for a third intifada or uprising. President Trump's speech has lit a spark. David?
James Longman in Jerusalem for us again tonight. Thank you, James. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Thursday from California. The case making national headlines, and the verdict is now in. The former police officer charged with shooting an unarmed black man in the back as he ran away following a traffic stop. The judge's decision tonight, that story coming up. Also, the new headline, and it's alarming, about this year's flu season. How bad could it get, and how effective is the flu vaccine this year? And in the pileup on an American highway, dozens of vehicles caught in a chain reaction crash. A lot more news ahead. Case making national headlines. Former police officer Michael Slager now sentenced for the fatal shooting of an unarmed black man after a traffic stop. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami tonight.
The former South Carolina police officer in this alarming cell phone video is headed to federal prison tonight for 20 years, one of the longest sentences ever handed down to an officer in a racially charged shooting. In court, families on both sides broke into tears as the judge sent 36-year-old Michael Slager away. From the beginning, he claimed self-defense.
I fired until the threat was stopped.
But today, Judge David Norton refused to believe this, saying Slager shot an unarmed man in the back as he ran away.
My soul is rejoicing right now.
The family of 50-year-old Walter Scott told Slager they forgive him for everything. Slager says he's grateful, telling them, "I wish I could go back and change that day."
I accept it, and we want to move on.
There are no winners here. One man is dead and another is leaving behind a young child as he heads to prison. Slager's team has 2 weeks to decide if they'll appeal. David?
Steve, thank you. When we come back, the new health alert tonight about the flu season. Just how bad will it get? Also, that huge pileup on an American highway. And the mystery solved tonight. Who bought that Da Vinci? We'll be right back. Finally tonight, the strength of the people here. Rachel Lipscomb, just 11. Her precious books gone. The fierce flames threatening ranches too, frightened horses led to safety. And there is relief tonight for one Los Angeles family. LAPD officer Tae Kim rescuing their cat. Judy Hoffman Sanders had no choice but to watch as her Shadow Hills home was consumed. Overcome, she hugs a firefighter. One of thousands in Southern California risking their lives to save the homes here. But this community is grateful. And those sisters we met here, Hannah and Haley, telling me why they're thinking of the